Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and today, you heard him about 3 weeks ago, for the E3 Keighley Xbox podcast, we have Bobby joining as the co-host. Welcome back, Bobby.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me, and got a great show lined up today, so can't wait to get with the brokettes and go over this great news.
If this is your very first episode of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, the way we format the show is we go through a block of news. This week we have the What's New on Netflix, the July 2022 highlights, and then we end it with the Brokette block, which is what Bobby and I have been doing since you last heard us. So let's jump right in and explore sector number 516. Whenever Bobby is on, we have Pokemon news. Perfect person for it. The Pokemon Company has updated its live event guidelines and has dropped its COVID-19 vaccine requirements for attending and participating in all future live competitive events. So other guidelines, including social distancing and mask requirements, will remain in place moving forward. But the reason this is especially relevant is because you, Bobby, will be judging at this event. And you can tell us a little bit of what the history has been with these tournaments in the past in regards to the vaccine and what these changes might mean for the World Tournament.
Yeah, so it's a big change. We were shocked by it. We mean mostly staff. Players, they didn't know it was coming either. But coming off of the international tournament last week, we didn't expect this. So it came right out of the gates. There's some people that don't care. There's some staff that are really concerned about it, and there's some that are indifferent. So it's all across the board. Pretty much, from what we understand, is the World Championships wouldn't have been able to be held in London if they did not drop that requirement. So I guess there was a legal issue in the way there, and they couldn't just simply move it because they've been trying to host this in London for the past 3 years. So because of COVID, it's been canceled twice. So I'm pretty sure they needed this to happen. Just get it over with. The first time they've hosted it outside the U.S., and it's been hampered by these cancellations, which is not their fault, of course. It's COVID, but it's really interesting. I'm indifferent. The only issue that I have is what we've been emphasizing and putting in place for rules since the restarted the season earlier this year in April was that the vaccine requirement was in place. We had to check all of it. We had to kick a lot of people out. We were having to deny a lot of people entry to these events because of not proper vaccination. And on top of that, the folks that could not even attend or didn't want to attend because they were aware of the requirement. So, they got mad, upset, and, just didn't go. So now that it's quickly pivoted, my concern, as well as some of my coworkers, is that there's lack of consistency. The messaging is off. Like this just came out and we weren't warned about it. And the fact that we were literally just enforcing this like a week ago, denying people entry to an event for that requirement, and then all of a sudden it's dropped. We're just scratching our heads. We don't really understand it. We get it. They're a big company. They got lawyers. They're gonna do what they need to do. Am I concerned about it? No. My issue lies with the like I said, the consistency. And there's a lot of people that were happy, and then there's players rejoicing that we're not vaccinated, they're non-vaxxers, etc. It was a bad day on the interwebs for that day when that happened. It was last Tuesday, I think. Whatever. It is what it is. It's going to go on, and the show will happen, and we'll be there, and they're just not checking one more thing. That's fine. The masks will still be in place. They're still going to do all the social distancing. The tables are going to be the way they have been. So they're going to do everything else that they've been doing. They're just going to drop the vax requirement. So
I waited to ask you this one till we were maybe you don't know the answer because of the legalities of it, but if it is a private event, why can't they enforce or not enforce whatever requirements they want?
They're not like a private business that has a store. They're hosting an event with people coming from across the world. They're also renting, quote unquote, convention center to host this event. So it's not a building they own or a place. They're not a private business.
Gotcha.
It's also not in the US. They're in the UK. So there's different rules over there. And we know this because there was a regional tournament in Liverpool back in May, and that one mysteriously dropped their vaccine requirement like the day before the tournament, and we couldn't figure out why. And then after some of my staff members did some digging, that's when we started finding out the rules in London's are much different. They wouldn't have been able to host the tournament otherwise. So we kind of forgot about that. And then when they dropped the requirement last week, everybody pointed back to, oh, this is what happened in Liverpool back in May. This makes a lot of sense. It's very consistent with that specific tournament. Like I said, it's a little bit confusing as to why, like even that point, why did they drop it for that one tournament and then let all the rest of them be that way with the requirements? It's the inconsistency that bothers me the most and a few of my coworkers. Other than that, things are going to move forward. We're going to move forward in life, and some of these rules and lines are going to drop, and we're already starting to see that, and it's fine.
I definitely get you as far as like the different message that it's sending. Like it would have been nice if they just finished with the Worlds tournament and said, okay, now that Worlds is concluded and it's done, moving forward, we're removing that restriction from all the tournaments or whatever it may be. But like you said, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on where you are, if you are attending or not, they weren't able to enforce that rule for that particular tournament. So that does show that sort of change in policy based on where they are. So that's the problem. And it was interesting on Discord, we were kind of placing bets because it really is the immovable object and the irresistible force, or resistible object and immovable force. We're like, where's Bobby going to land on this one? Because he's on both sides. he's Mr. Pokemon, and he's enforce whatever is needed, safety first and all that. So it was kind of interesting to see which one of us were right or wrong in the Discord when we were placing our bets. And now you have it right here. It's more or less, I get it, I understand, but it's inconsistent, but I get it. It's kind of what I got out of it.
Yeah, and it's the inconsistency. That's the main thing. We're the face of all of this. So when we go to the next event, there's going to be people looking at us like they're going to remember. They're going to remember the ones that denied them entry to these events. So yeah, they're going to be pointing fingers at us. They're going to be in their head talking crap. If they do, I don't care. I can't hear them, and it doesn't matter to me. But there will be a few that will make it known that they are at that event and that they, quote unquote, won this battle over vaccination. I don't care. A lot of us don't. But to even have that happen, it shouldn't happen, because we're the front line. We're going to have to see these people. We're essentially customer service.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, yeah, we're judges, we're officials, and we have to do things. But our big part of our job at these large scale of tournaments is customer service. That's all it is. It's going to be it's going to be difficult to deal with some of the crap that we're going to have to put up with, because there's going to be a bunch of smart alecks. It's going to happen.
Yep.
And there's some people that won't deal with it well, unfortunately. And then there's some like me that'll just, fine, do what you want, because I'm just going to go get you banned, or I'm going to get you suspended from this tournament or DQ'd. Because at the end of the day, they have to follow rules too, and they're not going to think about that. They're just going to step out of line, and it'll happen. That's all there's to it.
We are getting the return of Pokemon at McDonald's, as they are reportedly bringing back the incredibly popular and controversial Pokemon card Happy Meals. So these Happy Meals were released last year, and despite the fact that these small meals are usually for children, adults and kids went to the popular fast food chain in droves to buy up all of these Happy Meals. While this promotion is set to launch next month in the UK, no US release has been given yet. And obviously, I think we are going to get it here in North America. That tends to be the pattern. They got it in overseas first, and then we got it here last year, from what I remember. Now, the reason last year's was incredibly popular, aside from Pokemon being hotter than ever, it also came with an exclusive promo card for McDonald's. So all the collectors, eBayers were out to try to get that promotional item, that exclusive. And so that made the product really dry up. And did you saw that all that happen? You saw the rush and commotion, and now they're doing it again. Do you think they'll be a little bit better prepared as far as stock, or do you think it'll kind of be the same thing?
No, they won't be prepared. It's going to be the same thing if we get it here. We'll see if we get it. I don't think it's going to be as hot as it was before, because some of that speculation market has died down. I think a lot of these speculators have learned their lesson not to do that, because they realized they didn't make any money off of it. So I think that's going to happen as well. But it's still going to be incredibly popular.
Will you be collecting any of the Pokemon exclusives for McDonald's?
Yeah, if we get it, I'll grab them, but I'll get them secondhand. I'm not going to go fight that battle. I don't have time for that.
Gotcha.
And it's not fair. Like I'm not going to take that from kids that need to have that. That's just my mentality. Somebody that wants to go do all that mess and sell them for like $3, sure, I'll spend the $3 and buy it from them.
That's the thing. They don't go for a whole lot. And I know I was kind of encouraging this by buying, I believe there was a Bulbasaur, there was a Pikachu, there was something that I ended up getting on eBay. But
There was a Bulbasaur.
Yeah. So it ended up being like $5 after shipping. It wasn't insane. And I just chalked it up to it being Bulbasaur. I'm like, if this were Charizard, sure, it'd be at least $20. But I guess from what you're saying, none of them were really worth the money.
No, I bought the full set like a month or two later. I got the full set for $20.
Beautiful. That's it.
That's totally worth it. I didn't have to go around chasing anything. I didn't have to ask and get denied and get partials and buy all this food that I didn't want and take stuff from kids that needed it. Like I didn't have to play any of that games, so I just did it.
Here's a character that we may be seeing show up in all kinds of different merch in a couple of years. More specifically, in less than 2 years, the first animated short featuring Mickey Mouse will fall into the public domain. So that one is Steamboat Willie. And Disney will no longer be able to prevent other artists or companies from using the character's likeness under U.S. copyright law. Mickey's first appearance was in 1928, which will lapse into the public domain at the end of 2023. So starting January 1st, 2024, it will have been 95 years after its first release and making it available to you and I could make Mickey Mouse shirts or at least Steamboat Willie shirts and sell them online and make money and not have Disney go after us. Now, this recently happened with Winnie the Pooh, and with Mickey Mouse, though, it's a much bigger deal. I don't think that's going to happen in 2024. I think Disney's going to throw enough money at lobbyists to make that extend another 50 years or something. But what's your take on it?
I don't know. I read about this last year that it was coming up, and from the article that I read, it seemed like it didn't matter anymore. They were just going to let it go. They have so many other mascots they can lean on. And I know, like you had just mentioned and talked about previously on another show, Winnie the Pooh has entered the public domain. So we're going to start seeing that all over the place. It's really tough to say because that's their golden goose, right? They could just let it go. We'll have to see what they do.
Would it be a little weird if like Universal Studios, they started carrying Mickey Mouse plushes and shit? Like, what if they did that? Or would they not do it because they would be inadvertently promoting Disney?
I don't know. That'd be cool, though. I mean, they already carry Spider-Man and Wolverine and the X-Men and all that stuff, so why not?
The one thing that I know some Disney fans I've seen the comment of like characters like Mickey Mouse and Spider-Man and Batman should never enter the public domain until the creator dies or the company that owns that character dies or goes out of business. That should be the exception. And I'm like, bullshit, man. That companies will never die. Some of these, like Disney's not going to know anywhere near going under at this point. So U.S. copyright law is there for a reason. They made that law years ago so that characters like this would be available to the public so that it wasn't always a privately owned thing. So all those people thinking that the sky is falling and oh, poor Disney and Mickey Mouse and Winnie the Pooh, they will still continue to sell Mickey Mouse merchandise and make Mickey Mouse products and TV shows. And guess what? The Disney fan base will be there to buy directly from Disney. They can market it as authentic Disney or whatever they want to call it. But I really don't think it's going to truly hurt their bottom line that much. Now I can see the character protection, the integrity of the character going away over time as more and more people mess with the character and start doing different projects with him. But right away, I think they're going to be okay. I think they're still going to make money on Mickey Mouse for several years.
Yeah, that's not going away. Everybody knows what Mickey Mouse is associated with, and it's Disney. So even your hardcore fans, the ones that hate it, I mean, you call Disney Plus Rat Plus, right? So you know exactly who they're talking about. It's Mickey Mouse. So when everybody says, like, I'm going to Orlando, I'm going to the home of the rat, or when you tell somebody where you live from out of town, and you say, oh, I live in the Rat House or Town of the Rat, they know who you're talking about. So it's just like the whole Amazon thing. Like everybody knows what Amazon is and what it does, and if you need something, you click something from Amazon. That's the way everybody was trained, quote unquote. So it won't matter because Mickey Mouse, even if it's free and anybody can use it, Disney's still going to use it. They're not going to stop using it. I think that's what the confusion is. They're not going to stop using Mickey Mouse. It's just that now they won't have to chase people down and do cease and desists on YouTube videos or podcasts or t-shirts and random merch that people make when they go to the parks and things like that and chase all these companies that are copying Mickey Mouse and its likeness. That's all. It's less work for the lawyers to worry about. But in the end, everybody knows what Mickey Mouse is associated with. It's Disney, so it's fine. Will somebody try to capitalize and make some money off of it? Probably. Is Disney going to care? Probably not, because they got other millions of properties to protect and cover, and they'll make money off of that stuff.
Right. And maybe they will care about the integrity again, but not much they could do about it at that point. And you mentioned Amazon. They recently, according to the Hollywood Reporter, picked up 8 Billion Genies from Image Comics as a series. And this is done by creators Charles Soule and Ryan Brown. The studio is looking to capitalize on this through a movie, a TV series, and more. So the 8 Billion Genies comic book is an 8-issue series that launched its first issue back in May, with issue number 2 releasing last week. The basic premise is it features a world where every single person is given a genie to grant one wish. So on the surface, it sounds amazing, but then you factor in 8 billion genies and wishes all being granted at the same time. And it is chaos. I subbed to the first issue back when it was up, and it's exactly what happens. Like, people wish awful things, and then people wish crazy, stupid shit, like riding a giant anime girl and all this other crazy shit. And some of the smarter people wish things like, I wish that I'm not affected by anyone else's wishes. Things that were, okay, that's for people. Some people thought ahead and knew what might happen. But in this case, Amazon is hoping to capitalize on the series. This doesn't mean that any of the show or movie or anything is truly going to happen, because how many comic series have been picked up that don't end up coming out? Reborn by Greg Capullo. That one was up for a while, and it did get picked up, but so far we still haven't seen anything, and I think it's been 6 or 8 years. So 8 Billion Genies, it's a great concept, and good on the creators if they do get at least a royalty payout for just the series pickup. But I've seen so many of these greenlit now, and so many of them not happen, that I'm personally not holding my breath on it.
Yeah, and how many other people are familiar with this comic and or idea in this concept? So they'd have to market the heck out of it. That's for sure.
That's the problem. It's not a hit right off the bat. It's not like something like Spawn or The Walking Dead that they can go, okay, this has a fan base already. Let's try to make a show and go from there. It is instead, yeah, it comes from Image Comics, and their big thing is to try to get things as properties on other mediums, and that's how they make a lot of their money. But 8 Billion Genies was not a hot seller, and I don't work at the comic shop anymore, but I really did not see the Twitter sphere chatter about comic book 8 Billion Genies when that released, and even now, except for the fact that speculators are now trying to find multiple copies.
Yeah, it's not like Invincible, for example. I mean, even that wasn't a main line, but it was popular because it was a good series, and it had some traction. Whereas, this 8 Billion Genies, I've never heard of it. So that right there tells you I'm not familiar with it. So how many other people haven't heard about it when a commercial or preview comes out are going to be interested in it? And then you got to think about your non-Amazon subscribers. Are they going to have this ridiculous trailer to get people to latch on and subscribe so that they can watch it?
Do you think that Invincible now, you mentioned that, is bigger than the comic itself? Do you think the show, the cartoon, is more popular than the ongoing book?
That depends, because I don't know what that viewership is. If that show picked up a substantial amount of viewers, and if you had a way to poll them and find out how many did not know about Invincible prior to, or ever read or heard about a comic book for Invincible, I think that number would explain that. I don't know how I know it did really well. Mm-hmm. I don't know how successful it was overall. I haven't finished watching it. I started watching, I think I'm like 3 or 4 episodes in. It's pretty good. I didn't read the series. I'm only familiar with it. So as a show, it's pretty cool. It does have very good voice talent in it. So that was attractive on its own. And there's another slice, and like how many people didn't know anything about it, and like, oh, J.K. Simmons is in it. Oh, I forgot his name from The Walking Dead is in it. So like, oh, I want to watch this. Things like that.
What's funny about Invincible is when I worked at the shop, it is the owner's favorite comic book of all time. So he was like, make sure we're always carrying the trade paperback, one of each, because if anything, I can hand sell it. And we're like, okay, great. And honestly, I would rarely sell the trade paperback. If it were up to me, based on an Amazon show happening, I wouldn't have reordered it. I would have just let it sell out and that would have been it. Maybe carry volume 1 and 2 because that's mainly what we sold. We rarely sold anything in between. But as soon as that show came out, I was like, holy shit, this time it paid off. However, we were still carrying one of each. So we quickly sold out of volume 1 and then that was it. Like we weren't able to restock quick enough. But based on that information alone, I do think that because of the memes and everything, I do think that the show is more popular than the comic because even back then it wasn't a hot seller. I struggled to sell the $1 issue. I would say it's the owner's favorite comic, and then maybe they'd give it a shot for whatever that's worth. But now I'd be curious to see. I'm going to ask the guys next time I go into the shop how well the series has still helped in selling the comic book because I know some people won't. They'll be like, I'll just watch the cartoon and that's it. And then there's others that are like, I want to see what happens next, and they'll read ahead.
So you said this came out while you were still at the comic shop. Did it sell really well when the show had come out?
It did. Yeah, there were a lot of people asking about it. Yeah. And unfortunately, it was out of print at that point. So we were like, for all good that did, we sold a few and we were sold out. Even the omnibus at one point, we had to sell the giant fucking omnibuses just because that's all we had and there were people buying them.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting metric there that, we'll never know the answer to. I think that is tangentially related, but in a different way because Invincible was just a little bit more popular as a comic book compared to this 8 Billion Genies. Unless it is, and we just don't know.
It's got to be,
I'm just living on
8 Billion Genies. I have not heard. Yeah, Invincible for sure. I mean, enough to have hundreds, over 100 issues, whereas 8 Billion Genies is just...
Yeah, it was 125.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And we have more comics coming our way, so this one is right up your alley. I'm assuming, I don't know if you're a Dan Slott fan. I'm assuming you are, but you've at least read a bunch of his work. Writer Dan Slott from Edge of Spider-Verse and artist Mark Bagley, old school Mark Bagley from Ultimate Spider-Man, will be teaming up for a monthly ongoing comic titled Spider-Man. So this ongoing will be a spin-off of the upcoming Edge of Spider-Verse miniseries, and issue number 1 is set to release on October 5th, which will be solicited in the new Marvel previews, which either came out this week or is coming out next week. So I know you've read a ton of Spider-Man. I believe it is your favorite Marvel series currently. I know you were talking about it on Discord or on Twitter. Is this something you'll be picking up from Dan Slott?
Yeah, I'll try it out. We'll see how it looks. I like Bagley's art as well. Slott has always done Spider-Man really well. I know a lot of people don't like him because of his comments on things, but he's just a weird individual. That's why he constantly deletes his Twitter and makes it come back. But whatever. You remove all that. Like, he's a good writer. He started writing Spider-Man with Brand New Day. Had a phenomenal run on that book. He headed up the whole Webhead crew, a gambit of writers that assisted him in writing. I didn't have any problems with it. It was a good run. Having him reach out and do this should be interesting. Really interested to see what the content's going to be. Is it going to involve a whole bunch of different Spideys or just the one? Or are they going to focus on one in particular? So we'll see.
I like that you brought up he has his webhead of writers because I don't know if you saw that making of comics or whatever that showed up on Rat Plus on how he is always late on his projects and he needs like these writers to come in and finish the fucking scripts for him because he spends too much time on Twitter arguing with Snyderverse fans or talking about Doctor Who or arguing with Spider-Man fans because a lot of Spider-Man fans don't like him based on what he did with Spider-Man with Brand New Day and everything else, or even the Superior Spider-Man because he quote unquote killed off Peter and then brought in Doc Ock in his body. I don't know. I hope he and Mark Bagley are good friends because Mark Bagley's going to be struggling to finish those scripts, to finish those drawings based on those scripts and then hand it off quickly to the inker and the colorist who are notoriously overworked when it comes to when they work with Dan Slott. simply because he cannot keep a schedule.
Well, this already has a date of October 5th, so that tells me issue 1, 2, and 3 already completed it in the can.
They goddamn better be.
Yeah, they would not, especially Marvel, they would not put a date on it because they've had problems in the past. Once there's a date on it, 1, 2, and 3, or at least up to 4, usually complete of an arc. So it is a miniseries. We don't know how many issues. I'm pretty sure it'll be done, especially if it's a miniseries.
Well, according to this, it's an ongoing. It's the Edge of Spider-Verse that's a miniseries, but this one is an ongoing.
It doesn't matter. They'll cancel that after like 12 issues, just like they do everything else. They can say ongoing all they want. It's going to be me.
That's true. Yeah, they say ongoing to try to get subs on, I'm assuming. Just like, no, this is long-term. Hop in. Get another Spider-Man story.
Yeah. It'll go to 12, and then they'll push out a 13 just to go past the miniseries number, and then it's like, oh, this is it. We're going to have a finale with number 14, you know? Just because they passed the 12 mark.
Are you subbing to the new Edge of Spider-Verse?
No, not yet. I don't really care for all the other stuff. I care about 616. That's the only Spidey I care about, really. The rest of it, when they...
Next Spider-Gwen.
Yeah, that's cool. Good for them.
What if there could be an all new Spider-Man that debuts in that miniseries, and it could be your favorite? You don't want to be there on the ground?
Nah, I'm good. They'll tie it into the regular book I'm reading. I'll see it. I'll hear about it. It's too many books. I can't keep reaching out to all these different... It's a money grab at the end of the day.
Oh, sure.
They made the punk rock Spider-Man book. There's another one they made too that just came out like a couple weeks ago. Like they're just money grabbing. I don't care about any of that stuff. I want Peter Parker 616. That's all I care about.
Well, we also have some movie news this week as, according to Variety, Dune Part 2 is now releasing on November 17th, 2023. They pushed it back 1 week. Legendary Pictures also gave a release date of March 15th, 2024 for the Godzilla vs. Kong sequel. I know a lot of people are calling it Godzilla vs. Kong 2, and they're saying, oh, there's going to be a rematch. That's not the official fucking title. Right now, the most we know is it's under the Monsterverse universe, and that's it. No official title yet. And in spite of Legendary's potential lawsuit, Dune Part 1 and Godzilla vs. Kong previously were hybrid releases that both did well in theaters and on HBO Max. Based on David Zaslav's latest comments, however, it looks like these sequels will release in theaters first exclusively. So he's done with the HBO Max dual release. The rumor is that's why Jason Kyler was fired, because it did cause a lot of relationships and money for Warner Brothers to go away. And so Kyler was the one to pay that price. But all of that aside, solid release dates for these sequels. And I got to tell you, I did not like Godzilla vs. Kong. I may be there for the sequel because this is at least one movie that won't be rushed into, this used to be 2 parts and now we're just splicing it together into one. It sounds like they're writing it from the ground up to have more movies afterward. And then I really liked Dune Part 1, so I'm definitely there for the rest of the trilogy.
So we taking bets on those dates moving around?
All right, well, what's coming out those days? Tell me what's coming out.
Dune Part 2 is not going to release on that date.
What else is on that date?
I don't know. I just don't think as much as dates have been moving around like every other week with every other studio, it's cool that they release dates so far in the future, but we all know they're going to change.
I thought you knew something I did, and like, that's when Avatar 3 comes out or something like that.
I mean, that could be the I don't know, some new movie that we don't know about, or Disney or somebody moves their movie, Paramount moves their movie on top of that, and another
Sonic 3. That's going to happen.
COVID-20 starts. I don't know. Who knows?
Top Gun Maverick 2 moves in on Dune's release date, and then Dune has to move because they're like, we didn't make a fucking billion. Fuck that shit. Let's move.
Did you just say Maverick 2?
That's what they'll call it, right? Top Gun Maverick 2. That's what I'd call it. You wouldn't call it that?
No, they would call it something else for a part 3. There's a reason why it's not called Top Gun 2.
There's too much good marketing behind it to like not just call it Top Gun Maverick 2. Fuck it, you guys will see it. It's just, especially overseas, they need to know that it's the sequel.
No, I'll just call it Top Gun the Goose.
How about Top Gun 3 Maverick 2?
No chance in hell.
All right, did you see Dune Part 1? And will you be there for Part 2?
I fell asleep a lot in it, so.
Gotcha.
Whatever.
So it sounds like no. It sounds like you won't be.
That movie sucked. I'm sorry.
All right.
It's better to watch paint drying. I think that's more fun.
Oof. Now, what's better, watching that, or you watched Doctor Strange 2 recently and you didn't like it? So which one's better there?
Paint still drying.
I really like the first Dune, so I'll be there for part 2, and I'll be there for the MonsterVerse sequel.
Dune had some moments. I'm not going to trash it too much.
Yeah, it's a
It had
gorgeous
some.
film.
It had some visuals. They did some work on the miniature sets that they used to get the great camera angles. It had some moments. The rest of it didn't care for. Just long, drawn out, boring movie. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, a movie that we both won't be watching is The Flash. And according to Variety, well, I can't speak for you, but it doesn't sound like you haven't said a thing about this movie, so I'm assuming no. But according to Variety, Warner Brothers Discovery is, quote, committed to releasing, end quote, The Flash movie. So the article reports that the investment that Warner Brothers has put into this movie is simply too much to scrap the project, to dump it on HBO Max, or to reshoot Miller's scenes with a new actor. It's just going to cost way too much. I think that's something we all knew, even though people online are like, you got to reshoot it. You got to get Ezra Miller out of there. It's like, you can't waste all that money and reshoot it again. It's not going to happen. And this wasn't a surprise to me. Everyone, it's not going to get canceled. They're going to release this movie.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. As far as me seeing it, I don't know. We don't know anything about it. So the fact that all these people are like, oh, I heard it's terrible. Okay, you saw it already? Because I didn't see it. It's not going to fit the mold that we want. We know that much, right? That much we know.
Well, there's a lot we know. We know it erases the Snyderverse. We know it goes back and redoes scenes in Man of Steel to where Supergirl is the Superman in that universe instead of Henry Cavill.
Is that stated or is that speculated?
Someone leaked it that worked on the scripts and the movies, and they're not going to say who because that's going to get someone in trouble. But all of that already leaked online. And early screenings that already went up for the film, which some are saying were positive, but they say they're all positive, and some are saying that it was a fucking terrible movie. So some people have already seen it, but the early screenings do confirm that these things do happen. Michael Shannon, you saw he's back in this movie, so he's filming scenes as Zod where he doesn't get killed in Man of Steel. The only thing that we don't know yet is whether or not Ben Affleck's Batman gets killed or not. Originally, he does. He does die in the original cut of the film. But instead, according to the reshoots that happened, they left it ambiguous as to Batfleck stuck in the Flash Speed Force, in this Flash multiverse. And that's the end credit scene of Ben Affleck telling Flash that he needs to find them. Kind of like an amalgam of that BVS scene where Flash was telling Bruce that he needed to find them.
Sure.
It sounds terrible, man. It sounds awful. The movie sounds terrible.
It probably will be terrible. There's probably going to be a lot of things in there that a lot of us will not agree with in many different ways, especially the Snyder movement. We'll see what happens. Maybe it'll be even more terrible movie than we're speculating. Who knows? What if some of that is altered? Like, what if that movie course corrects the Snyderverse and we don't know about that? That I guess that's my angle. Like, until we actually know, it's somebody like secretly leaking without telling who it was. Like, whatever, man. You can say that about anything, or anybody can say that about something. Yes, you said some test screens. I remember seeing that too. But some of the test screen people were like excited about it, and then there's others that were like, "What the hell did I just watch?" So it's all over the place. As far as what you were saying or what people are saying to delete the movie, recast the movie, I think that's impossible. The movie's in the can. I think it's already been completely edited, right? It's done.
Yeah. So there's at least an initial cut for sure.
Yeah, like the amount of money that's been put into that, there's no way in hell that they'll go back on that. And if they do, like, that means something really bad happened with Ezra Miller besides what we already know in the face of public. If that's the case, then yes, they would do one of two things. They'll hold on to that movie as humanly possible, legally possible, actually, per contracts, because the Writers Guild, all that stuff. There's a lot of contracts there that movies have to come out because of what dates are in there. Or they make the very difficult decision to recast him, which that's a big deal. You're not talking about an animated movie where they can just redraw something or reconstruct something in a computer. They have to physically go reshoot a movie with the main star. So that'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. But there's no way this movie gets like quote unquote like just axed and canceled and we never see it. It goes into an abyss. There's no way. There's way too much money involved. There's way too many contracts involved in there where it just has to be pushed out. Now, whether or not they change it, like I just said, that's a different story.
And I do want to touch on what you had brought up on whether or not it may course correct the Snyderverse. Whatever happens in this movie, because there's been some people that also say this actually confirms that it is in the Snyderverse, and because the director saw the Snyder Cut and he liked it, so he changed some things in this movie so that his movie is in the Snyderverse. It's like, I don't care what happens in this movie, good or bad. I don't care if it took place in the Snyderverse and we see Superman in the black and silver suit. No, to me, this movie is not in Zack's universe because he did not produce it, he did not make it, he did not write it, and Zack has already said the only movie that it's in my universe are the ones up to, Man of Steel, Suicide Squad, and then you have the Snyder Cut. Those are the 3 movies, and I guess Wonder Woman too. But those are the 4 movies that are in his universe. He already said after Aquaman Forward is a whole different universe. He's like, that's not my universe. It splits the timeline. Like that's a whole different thing. That's in the Justice League universe. So that's another thing that I see some Snyderverse people like, well, maybe we should watch it because the director liked the Snyder. Bullshit, man. Like if we're really going to boycott this thing, we got to boycott it in spite of what happens, good or bad. So that's one thing that I've been seeing and I think is nonsense.
This has a date, right? Is it later this year?
It got pushed to next year.
Of course it did. See, another movie got pushed. What if Snyder promotes this movie? Does that change? Maybe not just you. Like, obviously, you can't speak for everybody. But do you think that would change some individuals' minds as far as like, oh, well, Zack's supporting this? Would they attempt to see it, or would just say, nah, I don't care. He's being paid by WB. That's why.
I think it would sway some fans for sure, because it did happen with Wonder Woman 1984. As part of the HBO Max Snyder Cut deal, he needed to promote 1984 and play nice with HBO Max. So that's when he was like, yeah, go, it's great. Like he was saying, it's a good movie or whatever he said. And now we know that, okay, he was doing it because of the HBO Max deal. So if he did it again, I know I wouldn't be fooled by it. I'd be like, no, I'm not seeing it. Like you're doing this because you're getting Justice League 2 or something. Like something would happen.
Now, another hypothetical. Let's say this gets delayed a little bit further. I don't know. Let's say it's slated right now for February. I don't know if that's the date. They push it to next summer. So you get another, 4 to 6 months in there, possibly, that it gets delayed. In between that time, he comes out, has a film video interview with whoever, you name it. And he pretty much lays out that this is part of the Snyderverse and it will be part of his continuity. Obviously not spoiling anything, but does drop some tidbits like, this is not his film, but this is my part of my story. This is using my Flash. And that's really it. Does that change anything?
If he says this is in the Snyderverse?
Yes. If he literally just says that. Not typed, but on video in an interview.
Right.
It says, this is part of my universe. This is my Flash. This is the story in here is part of my equation.
It would sway a lot more fans than him promoting it, like saying, yeah, I saw it and it was good. If he had said it was actually a part of his film plan, yeah, I wouldn't see it on opening or anything like that. I think I would still wait because it does still not sound good. It is still a product of Hamada. I don't know how you could at all wash this movie from that. Like, that's my problem.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it gets delayed further. And I guess the context that I left out is when he does this, whatever, hypothetical interview,
sure,
he clearly is involved in the film now. Like they did some reshoots. They edited some things, not remove Ezra, of course. He's still the character, but make some change. Zaslav specifically brought in Snyder to make some changes to this movie within reason, within the budget that he was given, to course correct what they either thought was going to happen or not happen, or try to make this movie better based on the test screening feedback, whatever, all those things. Like if he was actually involved and then actually said, this is part of my equation. And of course the movie's delayed for a while.
Right. Yeah. I mean, at that point, I still wouldn't see it day one. I'm sorry. Like I would wait until later. Cause I don't know. I just feel so like there'd be a catch somewhere. Like I feel like there would.
Zack's in it. Zack touched it. Zack worked on it. Zack has said, this is mine.
Unless this is like
part of mine.
Unless they're like, okay, we scrapped that film and he's directing the Flash film. It's a completely redo. Then I'd go see it. But otherwise I'd be like, I'll just check it out later just in case. That's what I would
This
do.
could end up being a Flash and Flash Snyder cut. You can get 2 different versions of that movie.
Could be, but until that happens, I don't know. I'm still a no.
All right.
We also have Warner Brothers Home Entertainment, this one actually did take off on Twitter. They've released a trailer for Batman Superman Battle of the Super Sons, an animated feature film due out later this year.
Who's the new kid?
John, this is Batman's son, Damian.
Well, he's obviously not invulnerable.
Reminds me of us when we first met.
So the movie has no street date yet, but it does feature Jonathan Kent Jr. and Damian Wayne teamed together against an invasion by Starro in which the Justice League are under the aliens' control. So if anyone's not familiar with the Super Sons, Jonathan Kent is Superman and Lois Lane's kid. Damian Wayne is Bruce and Talia's kid. So while the art style is influenced by Super Sons artist Jorge Jimenez, the story won't be based on Peter J. Tomasi's run. And that's my only complaint with it. But I do think this movie is going to do extremely well with the younger audience. And by younger, I mean like people in their 20s and in their teens, because I know a lot of them are now familiar with Damian Wayne, with the Super Sons. And I think this will sell extremely well to the people that want to know more about the two kids and haven't read the book. So I think it is a good decision by Warner Brothers Entertainment.
Yeah, it looks cool. And I bet, a lot of people are going to gravitate towards it because Damian is an asshole towards Jonathan right away. You see it in the trailer. So that'll be interesting because that's Damian's attitude. And anybody that's not familiar with Damian in particular, like, he's a little brat. Bruce always has his hands full. So we'll see what type of relationships they build. If, I didn't read the books with the kids. I'm only catching up on them now because in the current Robin book, Jonathan shows up like once or twice. And then in the current Nightwing book, Dick is actually mentoring Jonathan because Clark had asked him to as a personal favor, because for those that do not know, like Dick became Nightwing because of Superman. Clark pretty much gave him that role and named him Nightwing, designed his costume is based off of Superman lore. So there's a very, very intricate relationship there between Dick and Clark. So the fact that Clark has asked Dick to look out for Jonathan as he's growing up and going through his trials and tribulations, and I'm not too familiar with a lot that's going on in the Superman book, but is it true that Clark's not around? He's off Earth, and that's why Jonathan's taken the role?
The entire Justice League are supposedly dead, but really they went to another universe. So the kids and all the other like spin-off superheroes have now taken over the place of the Justice League. So the rumors were true. There was this big rumor that they were going to diversify the DC universe, that they were going to kill off the older ones, and we were going to get the younger superheroes, the gay ones, the minority ones, and they were going to be the new Justice League. And that's where we're at right now, for sure. For better or worse, whatever people fall on. Yeah, it's true that Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman in that main Justice League continuity are not there. But you can still get Bruce stories. They're on the side. It's just in a different timeline, basically, different time point. So anyone complaining can still get their Bruce and Clark still. So
they can also get their Dick too if they want it.
Yeah, that's right. which you've been reading.
So yeah, it looks really cool. I don't really do too much with the animated films that DC puts out because they pump them out like crazy. Mm-hmm. This is probably going to go straight to Blu-ray/DVD, right? Digital. Yeah. Not movie theater. I think the only one that's going to movie theater is the Super Pets, right?
Right. Yeah, and I think that's because it's not done by Warner Brothers Entertainment. It's done actually by Warner Brothers.
It's very interesting. They chose that one to go to theater. And some of these animated films are actually good. I know some of them are not. So we'll see.
And I know a lot of people know that I love the Super Sons comic by Peter J. Tomasi. Scott from Lazy Gaming Guys and here on the show, he loves Super Sons as well. So I know he sounded like he was pretty hyped for it. The animation itself, it is 3D-ish, and I'm not a fan of that, but, whatever. I will eventually check this out on HBO Max when it hits HBO Max, because I know it will. All the other animated movies have. I'm not going to go out and buy it. If it were based on Tomasi's work completely, or even a screenplay by him, yeah, I'd be buying this movie. But otherwise, the track record has not been the best for the DC animated movies over the last 4 years. Ever since Bruce Timm stepped down as the main guy, they haven't been great. So that's my thing with it. But I do think it is a smart decision by Warner Brothers Entertainment. And that does wrap up our news for this week. We now head into the What's New on Netflix for this month, the July 2022 highlights. So to anyone not familiar, this is just a highlighted list. It's not the full list of everything coming to Netflix, but more or less things that I've seen or that I know I can go back and forth on with Bobby. So the first one on this list is The Goodfellas. This has been on the news a lot lately, especially after the recent death of Ray Liotta. And now you can check out what is known to many as probably his most famous film is The Goodfellas, and now hitting Netflix. I think it is one that's worth watching before, one of those movies, watch it before you die type of thing.
Yeah, it's an oldie. That's an oldie, but a goodie. For those of you that haven't watched it, check that one out. It's a good one. Good mafia movie.
Next one on this list is I Am Legend, which is the first appearance of Batman versus Superman before Zack Snyder was attached to it. This is back when they were playing around with the Nolan universe, having Nolan-verse Batman fight a Superman. And you see that on there. This is also the one where gas prices were really high and everyone like freaked out, but now we're at that price.
Yeah, we're above that price now.
Yeah, so what'd you think of this Will Smith one? I know this is right in that period where Will Smith still drew in a lot of people.
Yeah, I saw this in the theaters. I think a lot of people were taken aback because they didn't know what it was. It was marketed and you saw the trailers and we kind of didn't know what it was about. And then we go see it and you figure out exactly what's going on. And it's I don't think it's what people expected, really. It was good though. I have a problem with it. I don't think it was amazing, but it was good.
A couple of weeks back, we talked about I Am Legend 2 coming out and how Will Smith was going to be in that somehow. And people were hoping that the ending was retconned into the alternate ending or the original ending, which had Will Smith not dying at the end of it. And I don't care if it's spoilers. This movie's old as fuck. If you haven't seen it by now, you don't care about the movie or the spoilers. If it's like it is kind of a post-apocalyptic vampire movie, if that makes any sense, but not like Blade, not like a supernatural one. It's just him seemingly in this world until the story unfolds, and then you get a little bit more out of it. You check it out if you're a Will Smith fan or if you're into vampire sci-fi. It's not one of my go-tos, but it's Police Academy from 1984. It was a little bit before my time, but Police Academy, is that one that you at all revisit or have any fond memories of?
Oh yeah, they're great. All those police academies are great. I used to watch them all the time on HBO. They were on HBO. I love those movies. Everybody tried to imitate something Jones, the guy that made all the sound effects.
Right.
He showed up in Spaceballs. He was the one sitting at the computer making all the sounds. Yeah, Winslow Jones. There we go. Yeah, Winslow Jones was in Police Academy, just crazy with the sound effects. So cool. You know, as a kid, you see that, and it's like, it's the best. Bobcat Goldthwait was in that movie. Of course, I'm just going off of memory here. I can't remember half the cast, but there's such a star-studded cast in there. And yeah, it's comedy. It's kind of like, think of like Scary Movie, but Scary Movie made fun of different movies that were out or pop culture relevance. Police Academy was just like a ridiculous police force. Kind of like Reno 911, but it just had just different personalities of people and all did different things and totally against what you thought what would happen. And then, you know, this is while they're going through the academy, but then they end up going to working at a police station. It's just the weirdest things happen. It's pretty cool. There's like 6 of them, I think. They get a little weird by the end, but the early ones are really, really good.
I want to sit down and definitely watch Police Academies from beginning to end. I had only seen a couple of clips here and there. You had mentioned the sound effect guy. I've definitely seen those scenes. I didn't know Bobcat was in there. That makes me laugh because...
Oh, hell yeah.
Did you know Jerry Seinfeld hates that?
Probably. I could imagine.
There's
He's all over the place, man.
There's an interview on comedians in cars getting coffee, and he's with, I forgot her name, but she mentions Bobcat and how she's good friends with him. And Jerry goes, I hate that guy. I don't like him. And he goes on and on about him for like 5 minutes, unprompted. Like he just goes, this is why he always had to make that stupid fucking voice, is because he's not funny. And that's the worst thing you can be. And he goes, and you can tell him that. And he just goes off on him. And she's all nervous about it because she doesn't know what to do. So she's nervously laughing the entire time because that's her friend. But this is Jerry Seinfeld. And on Netflix, they bleep out the comedian's name. But people were quickly able to figure out what he was saying because they don't bleep his mouth. So they're like, oh, he's talking about Bobcat, who made weird voices, I guess, during his stand-up and all that shit. And ended up quitting comedy because I don't know. It's just, I got to see it now just to see if he really is not funny in Police Academy and see if he's right.
He has a really bad speech impediment. That's what it is. So like when he's talking, he starts yelling, and then it comes back down. His volume's all over the place because he has trouble talking, and that's his character in the show, or not show, in the movies. A perfect example is like the Muppets. He's Animal. That's who he is. He's that character in these movies. He's never dressed properly. He's always half dressed and shirt untucked or one side untucked kind of thing, hair all over the place. And when he talks, he's all loud and low, and his voice stretches all over the place.
Right. Yeah. So that sounds like the gimmick that Jerry was talking about. Who knows? Maybe he's funny in that. I'll find out for sure. Another one on this list is Stranger Things Season 4 Part 2. And this is finally wrapping up this season that is doing really well on Netflix. It's a show that is costing more than even Game of Thrones did per episode. So Netflix is paying a lot. You and I were briefly talking about this off mic, on how you were saying that the budget is absolutely there. So you're going through this season right now. What are your brief spoiler-free thoughts on it?
Brief spoiler-free, you can tell they're spending the money. You can see it. The money is evident, which is great. Like it's their anchor. It's Netflix anchor show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've lost other shows and they've ended. Stranger Things is their baby. Obviously, it's a huge marketing vehicle. Oddly enough, it actually affects us in our industry too. Like the amount of people that are interested in tabletop, especially D&D, because of Stranger Things, the resurgence is through the roof. So I will say that this season, it dives in on the D&D. It does.
Good.
It's all D&D. It's more than the previous seasons. I was surprised at the angle that they're taking. There's a lot of fluff in there. Because of the fluff, I think that's why I'm not enjoying it, but I'm only 3 episodes in, so there's still a lot to go. These episodes are longer. Every episode, it's 9 episodes total. I don't know how many they put in for part 2, so I'm looking at it as a whole now because it's all out. So season 4 is 9 episodes. Every episode is over an hour, an hour and 20 minutes on average, I think. But the last episode, episode 9, is 2.5 hours. So it's literally a movie for the 9th episode. So we'll see what that's all about. Really can't talk about much more than that, but it does seem like there's a lot of fluff in there. As I go through it, we'll see how much of that is relevant and they come back or circle back to certain things, or it's actual fluff. But I'm not hating it. It's fine. We'll see where it goes. They've got a season 5 planned. That's supposed to be their final season. They're going to end the whole thing, bookend it. I know the Duffer brothers are under a lot of scrutiny right now for whatever reason. I haven't finished it. So when I finish it, maybe I'll figure that out.
I love that you brought up the length of each episode because it used to be, I believe, 45 minutes to an hour long, and now they're even longer.
Yeah, they were like 50 minutes on average.
And there's people that are binging this show and they're watching all of them. Like they watch all of part 1 and now they're watching all of part 2. Yet people complain about the length of movies. Avatar 2 is saying that it's clocking in at over 3 hours. And people are like, oh, 3 hours. Oh my God. It's like, you guys fucking binge Stranger Things. Like that's like 6 hours of content at least right there. Like, what are you guys talking about? It's just fucking crazy.
I think there's a difference when you're in your home versus going out and having to watch something. Cause you can hit the pause button while you're at home.
Oh, come on.
In a theater, you can't. And I know that's a lot of people's issue is like a lot of people have small bladders, unfortunately. So it's like, I don't want to go to the bathroom because I'm going to miss something. I won't know what I'm going to miss because I haven't seen this, obviously. So that's an issue. And then again, they can't hit the pause button if they want to get up and get a snack, things like that. Or like I want to get away from this for 20 minutes to go do something. I need to go send an email for work or go put the kid to bed. Well, you can't do that if you're at the theater. It's a complete, like you're already invested when you're at the theater. I think that's the only defense I can give for that argument. Other than that, you're right. Like there's other movies that have been longer, and why are you complaining about this? But I think that's the main thing, is that this is a home experience versus theater.
Or even the ones that, okay, let's say theater, exclude that. I didn't want to go there, but the Snyder Cut is 4 hours long. It's not in theaters. It's at home. You can watch it at your leisure, and people still complain, oh, 4 hours long for fucking pause it. Watch it in parts. It's in 6 parts, guys. Zach already said, if you want, watch it 1 through 4. That's his recommended. Watch parts 1 through 4 and then finish the last bit. But I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get the complaint. I like the Millennial Mike. He went to the movies recently, and he's like, I just got up and I went to the bathroom. I didn't care if I missed a little bit. I just went and sat back down.
Yeah, I got to a certain age where I don't know. I don't remember when it was. Like I stopped worrying about it. When you got to go, you got to go. Because you get older and you realize you'll start doing damage to your body. So you just got to go. If you try to hold it, you're gonna have a problem. So
I'm gonna run into that because I hold it. Like I'll go.
Don't do that. I will warn you from experience. Do not hold it. For all of you listening, here's a good example. If you are in bed asleep, you wake up and you know you have to go to the bathroom. You got to pee really bad. You're like, nah, I'll just go back to sleep. I'll wake up in an hour. Trust me, you don't want that pain to last you for the next few weeks. It's not good. So get your lazy ass up, go piss, and go back to bed and sleep for another 50 minutes. You'll thank yourself later. Do not, or even if you're super cold. Oh, it's so cold in the bathroom. I'll just wait. Nah, you need to go. You don't know what kind of pain is going to happen in the next week.
See, I thought your story was taking a different turn. You're like, you're going to regret it because you're going to piss yourself in bed. Like, take it from experience.
Oh, that's fine. You can clean that up if that happens. That's not a big deal. It's the pain that you just can't, it will not go away. You get an infection. It's not good. It's bad.
UTI, right? Is that what causes those?
Yeah, that can happen. That is very possible.
Another one on this list is the controversial The Dark Knight Rises. To a lot of people, the least favorite of the Nolan trilogy. But it's also the one that always shows up outside of HBO Max. Because HBO Max always gets Batman Begins, Dark Knight. And then it shows up, the third one always shows up on Netflix or Paramount or somewhere else. Or the opposite happens. HBO Max only gets The Dark Knight Rises, and then the others get Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. I think it has to do with contract. Probably something different happened with the third film. But if you want to catch that third one, which I think is solid, I think all three of the Nolanverse movies are good. My favorites still go in order. Begins, Dark Knight, and Rises. But I don't think it's as terrible as people were making it out to be back when it released. And I like Tom Hardy's portrayal of Bane. It's a little bit more... It's less grounded than the previous two films, but I still think it's pretty solid in spite of the fan service that happens in there with Robin, in spite of like the unbelievable nature of him escaping the pit. I still think it's a cool movie.
You just like it because Talia's in it.
Yeah, and she's played by Marion Cordier, I think is how you pronounce it. And that was a cool moment. That was cool, but I would have liked her to live so we can get a Damien and at least it hooked up with her, I guess.
No, you got Robin instead.
Yeah, his little name was fucking Robin, which I was like, come on.
Yeah, when they did that at the end, I was like, come on.
Just call him Dick.
That was my reason. I was, come on. When they said that, he's like, but they call me Robin. I was like, what?
Yeah, that was like, just say Dick Grayson or something. Then everyone would have understood it. Maybe not. Maybe the general audience would have been like, who? But they get Robin, so I'm assuming that's why they did it. I bet you that was a studio thing too. Make sure to put in Robin or make an opening for a sequel in case we want to make more without you. Who knows? Another one on this list is The Terminal starring Tom Hanks. I remember seeing this in theaters because I like airports. I haven't flown enough to not like them, but I like the atmosphere of an airport. I don't know what it is. I just like being at an airport. And this is a whole movie about Tom Hanks, a foreigner stuck in an airport for a little over 2 hours. So I put this on this list because I do want to revisit it. I haven't seen it since theaters.
I can't remember if I've seen it or not.
Maybe if you saw the poster, it might jog your memory, but I know it didn't do crazy good either way. And there's also the 2016 Blair Witch, which is a remake of the first one. You do get to see the witch herself or the demon itself or whatever. Did you see the remake to the Blair Witch classic?
No.
Did you see the first one, the straight out of UCF Blair Witch?
I did see that one. I wasn't a fan of it. I get it. I don't know what it's trying to depict with the whole, what is it called? Action. I forget what that genre is called.
Oh, I know what you're found footage.
Found footage. There we go. I get it. And it was I think it was the first of its kind. And it was cool because we got to brag about it because it's from UCF, actually Valencia, but UCF grads were involved. And that was cool being from here, but I didn't care for it. I don't like the whole jumpy move around camera, can't see anything. Doesn't make any sense to me. Cloverfield was the same way to me. I didn't care for that one either.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's not for everyone, but like you mentioned, it's not the first movie to do it, but it's like the most famous one to really put that genre out there, and it definitely changed movies forever, because then we got the Paranormal Activity movies and all of that stuff. A lot of money to be made for sure. And also The Flash season 8 is hitting Netflix for anyone that's still keeping up with those. I'm definitely not. Are you caught up with The Flash, or do you care at all?
No, I fell off a while ago. There was just so much going on, and I just stopped watching it.
Mm-hmm. And also season 1 of the Netflix exclusive Resident Evil. I will be watching this. It does take place in the continuity of the video games, but it takes place years after the latest one, I believe. And I'm going to check it out. I do really want to see where they take this, and hope that we get some cool monster effects, some cool kills. And I know it's going to be some Walking Dead-ish type of show. You're going to get a lot of character relationships, character buildup. But I like Resident Evil, so I'll be checking it out.
Is it animated?
Yeah, the monsters will be. No, it's live action.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I'll check it out.
And also the Tom Holland starring Uncharted will be hitting Netflix. It seemed to have done well in theaters, and Netflix ended up picking that one up.
I'll watch it. I like the games. Games are good. Scott's cursing right now because he hates the games, but games are good. I want to see what they did with the films. I don't care about the stars who's starring the movie. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I just want to see if they worked with Sony and put down what they put in the games, and if it's equivalent or if it's completely different.
Couple more here. We have Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous Season 5, which is the final season. So this is it for Leo and his Camp Cretaceous show. We're not going to get any more out of this. So he's going to have to rewatch each season as it releases.
I feel like this show in particular put Jurassic Park back on the map, and that's why we have all that merch out in the stores.
It kept it alive in between movies, that's for sure. And you get to see things like, oh no, the Lego one had Nedry's like nephew and shit in it, like it continued the lore. But yeah, this one was good because you have these dinosaurs that you didn't see in the movie, some of which you did. You saw the Indominus Rex in the first or second season, right before Jurassic World. So there's continuity wrapped in there. It does take place in the same world as the movies, which is really cool. But I know that the producer behind Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, has said that we're going to get more in TV and movies. So maybe we'll get another Jurassic World cartoon and they'll just stop calling it Camp Cretaceous. Maybe they'll call it something else. But I'm sure this won't be it for Leo. There'll be something more that comes out.
Hopefully. We need Jurassic Park lore to keep going. It's a good franchise. A show like this is what brought the kids on currently that haven't seen any of the movies, obviously. So I think it's a good jump on point. And it's a good way to keep the whole franchise and property going.
And it confirms that the Jurassic Park movies are for kids too. Like that's one of those, even though people are dying, it's PG-13, there's blood, there's horror. It's for kids too. Like they love that shit. And this confirms it. They have a fucking cartoon based on it.
It's dinos. Kids love dinos.
Last one on this list is another Netflix exclusive. And I saw the trailer to this and I'm like, oh, I'll check it out. Because the title alone, The Most Hated Man on the Internet. So I'm like, all right, what is this? Is it a troll? Is it a hacker? You could go all kinds of. So I'm like, all right, what is this? So I checked it out, and it is about someone who blackmailed women. He had a site, and I think maybe males too, because it was a site that you can put anyone's pictures up of, and you could post anonymously any images you have of anyone, and they were up for everyone to see. And obviously, that's very illegal. There was some blackmailing involved, and a lot of women and people went after this guy because of this website that he had up. So it was they called it The Most Hated Man. And I'm like, holy shit, I didn't know about this story. I checked it out a little bit on Wikipedia, but Netflix does really good with their documentaries. So I will be watching this one.
I remember hearing about it. I don't remember seeing a trailer or anything, but I think I added it to my list. I can't remember.
And there you have it. Those are the highlights for this month's What's New on Netflix. A lot better than last month's. We last month was not good. I remember the list being like 5 movies long, and I'm like, I don't know if I should keep doing this segment. It seems like Netflix is losing movies and exclusives left and right, but now we're back on track. So good on Netflix and good on this list, because otherwise it'd be HBO Max, and then maybe I'd start covering Paramount Plus. I don't know. But there you have it. Again, full list is online on comicbook.com and on Bleeding Cool. But now we head into the final segment of today's show. It is the Broket Block, which is what Bobby and I have been doing since you last heard us. So obviously we've got the dual news about the podcast, but first, how are you, Bobby? How have you been since you were last on? and the Broquette Corps last heard you.
I'm doing good. I've been really busy the past few weeks, as you alluded to earlier in the show. I had back-to-back weekends with Pokemon duties, and that was not fun. It's too much all at once. I don't like it. One was longer than the other. Like I went to Milwaukee for a regional. It was the last regional of the season. I came back, was here for 2 days or a day and a half, whatever, and then went off to Columbus for the internationals, and that was a little longer. Was there for 6 days, I believe, opposed to Milwaukee, which was 4. It's just a bigger tournament, more involved, and a lot more going on. And even though those are days like off of work, like there's a lot of work that I do that's not work related. So it's just constant. So then coming back home, and there's a lot going on in between that. Like folks around the house got COVID, my wife got COVID, and having to bounce around that. I've still navigated it safely for the time being, knocking on wood. So it's been a whirlwind the past few weeks, but we're back to normal now, back home and back to a regular work schedule. I did watch Halftime, J-Lo. I watched that.
Oh, yeah. I watched it too. What'd you think?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It was not bad. I didn't realize how much work went into the Super Bowl show.
Right.
It was interesting to see that. And I hope that those were real documented videos of her arguing with upper echelon of the NFL, because that's important to see. She fought. If those are real, like she fought and she fought hard, and looks like they wanted to take those cages out the day before and she kept them in. So I like that she strong-armed it and kept it in there. It was a very strong message for her to portray in there.
She did lose like some of the designs, like she didn't get the runway she wanted or something. Yep. She didn't get the female symbols on there, but they were able to keep the cages on, which I like how when she showed the designs, they didn't know that they were cages, but artistically they were designed to represent cages. And then once they got whiff of, everyone up top got whiff of that, they're like, wait a second, this is a political message? No, we can't do that. That's when they got mad.
They didn't say anything until the day before.
I don't think ridiculous. They knew, which is silly.
Right. They just looked at it and thought that they were like domes, or
right.
People are going to be dancing in there. No, they were going to have kids in there. That was the goal.
Yeah.
It just shows that you can't silence everything, and she was able to get away with it. Well, I shouldn't say get away with it. She was able to put out her message, and that's what's important. Mad respect for that. The whole, the roller coaster that she went through with the Oscar noms and the award season, she had never been put up that high on a pedestal, only to be let down because the Academy didn't recognize her.
Not even a nomination, yeah.
Right. That was ridiculous. I thought she would at least get the nomination, because she got nominations across the board for all the other award shows, and she won a few. And then to just get completely snubbed on the nom, that's wild to me. But we're talking about a corrupt Academy anyway, so whatever.
Yeah, that's why we have the Broskers.
Yeah. Which, did we nominate her for the Broskers? I can't remember.
She was nominated. She was also, this was 2 years ago, she was also she won the fan vote as well. She beat out Brad Pitt, I believe, for Best Leading when we did the fan vote on Twitter.
That's all that matters. She got her 2 day in court.
Yeah, she knows. She's like, look, at least I got the Brosker. Like, it helps her sleep at night.
I finished watching a couple other crime stuff. I like watching documentaries. Yeah. And there was The World's Most Wanted, I think is what it's called. I watched that. There's only like 6 episodes in it. I watched Drug Lords season 1 and season 2. And then the one I just recently finished was The Legend of Cocaine Island.
What a title.
I thought it was going to be like this true story about El Chapo or something, but it actually wasn't. It's a side story of somebody that finds out about money on an island in the Bahamas. It's like a mockumentary. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. It's a mockumentary. It's based on a true story, but it retells what happened in a comedic way. But it's not funny. It's just slapstick, and it's not. I don't think it was funny. So I went ahead and watched the whole thing. It had an interesting delivery at the end, but whatever. It's done. It was only like an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay.
There was something else I watched on there too, and I can't remember what it was. I'm still trying to finish Narcos Mexico. I still haven't finished that. I'm like on season 2 of 3. I need to hammer that one out. And then besides Netflix, I caught up my read pile. My stack was pretty big. I got Spider-Man all caught up because it's restarted again.
Right.
And it's actually good. I'm surprised with the restart with John Romita Jr. and I forgot who's writing it, but it's a good. It's not bad at all. So I'm impressed so far. We'll see where it goes. It kind of started with, this is like the first 2 pages, like, holy crap, this happened. And then the rest of the issues are now backstory onto leading up to that massive thing that you saw on the first page. So sometimes that approach is not good. In this case, it's a very interesting approach because a lot of weird things happened outside of what we're used to seeing with Peter Parker. So it's cool. I'm enjoying it. Multiple other books I finally caught up on. So I caught up on Batman, Detective Comics, Nightwing. I want to drop Detective Comics. I don't like it. But
yeah, that's what you said last time too.
it's just, I'm hanging on by a thread. I don't know why I'm hanging on. I just need to drop it. There's a couple miniseries that I need to read. Oh, Robin's all cut up. Robin and Batman I read because that one finished. The miniseries I like to wait till they finish so I can read them because they release so infrequently.
Right.
I don't want to forget stuff. I think it's called Robins. It was like a 6-issue miniseries. I think that one just finished, so that one's next. I got to read that. There was one other. Oh, Dark Knight, the medieval one.
Oh, Dark Knights of Steel. That's good.
Dark Knights of Steel. Yeah, I haven't started that one either because it's 12 issues, and I think there's only 8 have released. So I think I'm going to start that when it gets to like 10 because obviously it's a longer one. So when it gets closer to finishing, I'll start reading it. But yeah, I remember you telling me it was good, and I was already buying it. So
yeah, that's awesome. Did you pick up Jurassic League?
No, I didn't care for that.
Leo loves it. I've been reading that.
I'm sure
he likes it a lot.
I'm sure
it's kind of cool seeing like the alternate universe where Clark Superman is a brontosaurus that landed on Earth, so he's really an alien, but Neanderthal humans raise him, and so he protects the Neanderthals.
Of course,
it's pretty cool. And of course, Batman's a T-Rex, and he kicks ass. It's the Dark Knight Returns Batman. Basically, it's the same costume, so he's all big and bulky. It's a really cool book.
Yeah, I just didn't care for it. I remember you and Scott had previewed it or talked about it. For you, it's good. You got Leo, so you can read it to him.
Yeah, I'm sub to 2 copies.
Nice. Playing some games. I'm trying to wrap up a few game titles so I can put those into books and trade them in and get rid of them. I like to finish games and get rid of them. I don't really sit on them. Mm-hmm. That's the good thing about no games releasing is I can finally clean up this backlog of games that I have. Put a decent dent in it the past 2 months. So slowly picking away. That's about it. Finally a rest from Pokemon. I don't do Pokemon again until middle of August for World Championships. So until then, it's just working. Yeah.
It's just next month, man.
I know.
We're like 4 weeks away by the time the episode releases.
Yeah, and then it'll start a whole new cycle of other things because it's a whole new a league year will start. So all sorts of surprises. Oh, another interesting news tidbit there. They announced, a Pokemon Company announced rotation, and rotation won't happen until next year, which is very awkward.
So it's usually a longer rotation?
Yeah, we usually get a rotation in September for the standard set. So now it won't rotate until like February or March of next year in the middle of the season. Very, very awkward.
Why do you think they did that?
We think it's because they're trying to line up with Japanese sets, because when that happens in February, March of next year, that's when we're going to get the first card set for Scarlet and Violet in the card game. And the video game will be legal for play competitively. So we think they're doing it to line up with Japanese releases. So we'll see. That's what it looks like.
Very good. Very good. I'm glad you've also been making a dent on your gaming, because I am in the final chapter, I guess, of Kingdom of Hearts 3. I had confirmed that with one of our coworkers, Max, and he was like, yeah, you're at the end. And then you had told me as well, like, yeah, you're at the, I just had to confirm it with a Kingdom of Hearts fan as well, even though I think it sounds like you had completed it before he did, right?
He completed it first, but I got the ultimate weapon before he did. So okay, I constantly hang that above his head, and he always acknowledges it because he knows that I got the ultimate weapon before him, even though he's claims to be the greatest Kingdom Hearts fan ever.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he hasn't met Julian, but yeah, Julian being the king of Kingdom of Hearts. So I'm right at the end there, and I'm liking, it's whatever. A lot of fighting, and that's what I like about the Kingdom of Hearts series. It's not super difficult. This last one is not. So I'm just glad I'm near the end, so I can start working on the Capcom fighters. I have the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection I need to play. I've got the Yakuza game, the gold edition or whatever, the one Scott really likes. It was on super sale like a year ago. I bought it for like $10 or whatever, $20. Got that at Target. So once I finish Kingdom of Hearts 3, I can start working on the rest of the log, because Leo and I finished TMNT, He and I are playing Lego Batman 3 right now, so slowly making progress on that and getting all the Green Lantern worlds all figured out. I finished the Jurassic Park novel finally. That took me a while. Saw all the differences between the books and the movies, like the bloodsucking lawyer lives throughout the whole thing. And I'm like, yes, he's great. But Dr. Hammond, or John Hammond, he dies in the books, and he's kind of an asshole in the books too. Not a great person in the movie either, but in the books, he's the blood-sucking one. He's the one who's like, we're going to charge $10,000 a day for this. He ends up getting eaten by compies, the little dinosaurs. It's just really interesting to see all the differences. It also has a bad ending. I don't know if have you read the book?
I did, but it was like over 20 years ago, so I can't remember half of it.
It's one of those where they escape the park and they end up in Costa Rica. But the authorities they're like, you're not going anywhere. You're not going to go back home. And there's also evidence that the dinosaurs are now all over the country. And they're like, oh, here we go again. Now we got to escape this country. And that's how the book ends. So it's like the start of Jurassic World in a way. But I finished that one. And then I guess the last thing I'll cover on my end, aside from the podcast awards, which we'll talk about, is I got the Pokemon Go set. I got the Elite Trainer box, and I traded in a bunch of Pokemon cards, and I got some singles as well from the set. But I ended up pulling, so far, the worst of the 3 Radiants, although it sounds like I'll be able to trade this in later. But if I'd gotten the Charizard, that would have traded in for better than Blastoise or Venusaur, and I could have gotten some credit towards the Venusaur. And Blastoise, I guess, is worth more than the Venusaur, but if I had just pulled the Venusaur, boom, done. No luck there. I didn't get the Ditto. What else was I on the lookout for? Oh, the reverse holos to Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur. I was able to get the regular commons, Bulbasaur, Ivysaur. You can see the unboxing on YouTube. So if you have our YouTube channel, you can see all these booster packs and the cards. They're gorgeous. And the printing is what it is. It's what Scott was saying, where they're kind of raised at the edges. And, I've accepted that. It's not a big deal to me because I got that same email back when I worked at the comic shop of printing's going to be different. It's just what it is. The quality is not going to be the same. So it's not a big deal to me. But I guess I can see why some people wouldn't like that themselves. But it's a neat set. What do you think? I know it's a side set and it's whatever, but I think they did a decent job. Instead of just screenshotting the fucking game and making that the artwork, they got artists to go in there and make Pokemon Go art, which I thought was a smart idea.
Yeah, it was good. They tied in elements from the game. So I've played it since 2016. Yeah, 2016 is when it came out. They've done a great job of implementing various events and costumes that they've put into the game on these cards. So it's a very good cross-promotional set as well, bringing in some folks that maybe have never touched a Pokemon card, just they started playing Pokemon Go because it was a fad and it was cool, or maybe they use it to exercise with or whatever. And now they're coming in and buying cards and seeing these cards that they can relate to because they've played Pokemon Go all this time. And I think that's really cool. And the fact that the app game itself advertises the TCG and the release of this set, that's another cross promotion on that end. So it's perfectly balanced as far as the promoting on both ends, from the Pokemon Company for the cards and for Pokemon Go, and then on Niantic's end for Pokemon Go, and then bringing in the TCG. So very well thought out on both sides. I was wondering how this was going to happen. It's gone pretty well. Yeah. It's left to be seen how well it does over time. So far, so good. The sad part is, like you and I have both seen, the speculators are out again. Hopefully that dies off. We've been able to deter some of it with the pricing, but who knows how long that'll last. We also don't know how much this is going to last as far as print run, because that'll determine a lot of it. Mm-hmm. There is some cards that are playable in the current meta right now. Like the Pokestop is a very good stadium card to use. There's like 1 or 2 Pokemon that are pretty good too. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm all done with the set personally, thanks to Cool Stuff Inc. I was able to get a bunch of singles and kind of fill out the cards that I wanted, which are the main line. But the next thing I do want to cover is, once again, this year, we are trying to go for the nomination on the podcast awards under Games and Hobbies and under People's Choice. So it is that time of year again. Every July, for the last couple of years, we've thankfully been very fortunate in getting the nomination for the podcast awards ever since 2017. So since 2017, without missing a year, thanks to the Brocat Core out there, you voted and have gotten us nominated. In 2019, we won under Games and Hobbies for the podcast. So that's why we are an award-winning podcast. The last year we were nominated under Games and Hobbies. So this year, if you go to podcastawards.com, we're trying to get nominated for the first time under People's Choice and for the 6th year in a row for Games and Hobbies. So we're trying to do it. We're hopefully the Brokehead Core come out as they have in the past 5 years and make this a 6 for 6 on nomination. Hopefully our second win under Games and Hobbies, and hopefully our first nomination and maybe win under People's Choice. So once again, that's at podcastawards.com. Scroll down to the blue box. It says sign up here to nominate. All it needs is an email, whatever password you want to make for the website, because it'll save your nominations. And once you're in, you see the category, you see the pull down menu. I know it can be a little daunting seeing all the categories, but you don't have to vote in all of them. If you want, you can just vote in the categories that are relevant to you. If there's a podcast you listen to in, for example, African American hosts, there's one in there for all kinds of shows, all kinds of nominees. Tell them Steve Dave was on there last year. So if you're a fan of these podcasts, feel free, nominate them for sure. But make sure to stop in at People's Choice and Games and Hobbies, because we are listed right there. Vote on those at the very least, and then click on Save Nomination. And if we get nominated, we will then go into the voting period for the actual slate. And that's where it's out of our hands. You know what I mean? If anyone that did sign up, there's a random selection of voters, and they then get to choose the winners from there. And there's also a panel. So please head on over to podcastawards.com and vote. 6 for 6. We're trying to go for it. Outside of all of that, Bobby, is there anything else that you want to cover before we close out this week?
No, that about does it. We covered a lot this week, but I will say, for all y'all listening, check out those podcast award nominations. Put us in.
Would love to get that nomination. Absolutely. And then if we end up winning, I want to, anyone that wants a trophy, I want to get the host's trophies for sure. And they have them on there. They're neat. They're great. Once you win, you can order X amount of trophies, and it's just a really cool thing if we were able to win. So I'd be looking forward to it for sure. And you should, if we win, you should put yours in the shop. Like right up next to the card boxes.
Heck yeah. Display it. I'll get a second one for the shop, one for home.
There you go. But there you go, Brokehead Core. Thank you so much for tuning in for episode number 516. And thanks to you, Bobby, as well, for helping me co-host this week's episode. Please let them know where they can find you.
Sure. Glad to be here. And I hope the Brokeheads enjoyed their time on this episode in this sector of the universe. You can find me on Discord. So come join our Discord, hang out, or if you don't like the Discord thing, join it and put us on mute and just come in and talk whenever you feel like it. That works too. Trust me. We have a really cool collector's corner, if anything, and you can share and join in on some of the things that we have and we like to share. So I suggested that channel a few years ago, and it's been popping off since. So it's a good way for us to share some of the things that we collect, love, find, maybe share with others that we know enjoy certain things as well. So, and then we can just sit there and talk in some other areas. You can also find me on Twitter. It's at QBANSLIM, Cuban Slim. And I'm not too active on there, but if you tag me, I'll reply. You'll find some Pokemon stuff or gaming stuff or random BS, some funny things sometimes.
At the very least, you will find images and videos of Bobby when he's at Worlds next month. And links to all of this will be in the description of this week's episode. If you did enjoy this episode, please tell a friend about it. If you know someone that's into Pokemon, that's into the DC universe of movies or animated, that maybe heard about the Mickey Mouse news, whatever it may be, tell a friend. Word of mouth is very effective in podcast growth. But once again, thank you so much for joining us. I've been Daniel, joined by Bobby, and Brokehead Core. All will be well. So you never answered my question at the shop, Bobby. Do you have your tickets for Thor 4 yet?
No.
Okay, what's going on? Are they not available yet? Have they not gone up? What's going on here?
It's in the movie theater, and I don't go to the movie theaters anymore. That's number one. Number two, I'll wait for it to hit Disney Plus. I'll watch it there.
Are you excited for it? I know the buzz has been negative on it, but I know you liked Ragnarok. Are you at all I'm not making fun or anything. Like, are you legitimate excited for it?
No, I'm not. I don't. It's not a Hulk movie, so I don't care. Ragnarok was a Hulk movie. That's why I cared for it. This one, I don't think we've seen Hulk or Banner once. So good luck to all those Thor fans that like Thor movies, because the rest of those Thor movies were absolute doo-doo.
The rumor is White Taikiti may not get another Thor movie after this or another MCU movie. I think he will. I think at least Disney will give him Star Wars like he said he would, but a lot of people are saying don't give him any more Thor because they made this one supposedly even more comedic than the last one, which is a little hard to imagine.
Yeah, but that's what they like. So they'll just keep giving it to them. I don't get this whole, like, everybody heard it, they hear it was bad. Who's seen it? It's not out yet.
A bunch of critics watched it, yeah.
You can't see it till, what's today, Tuesday? You can't see it till Wednesday, tomorrow. Wednesday, then I'll start believing what people say. Because then Wednesday, like, they'll have test screenings in actual theaters in our local areas. And then Thursday is the first showings that'll be at like 6, 7 p.m. They'll do like 2 of them. And then Friday, of course, all day long. This whole, like, I heard it was bad. I don't get it. Like, this whole weird social media rumor mill. People can wish bad on it all they want, but I think it's funny because it's not going to turn out that way. It's a Marvel movie. It's going to do well. People that don't like Marvel are going to hate it, and the Marvel fans are going to rejoice in their crappy movie. That's just how it goes.
We
all know this. We all know it.
There it is.
I just watched a Marvel movie 2 days ago. We talked about this, and it was what was it? It broke a record for the most tickets sold quickest ever. Broke all the pre-sales, right? Isn't that the record?
Are you talking about Doctor Strange?
Yeah, it broke some weird pre-release or sales record ever. Well, I saw the movie and it's complete garbage. It sucks. So I don't get it. I honestly don't understand it. But more power to those Marvel fanboys, because they will bask in their glory and love their films. And great. Yeah, I don't know if this movie will be good or bad. It has Natalie Portman. She's cool. We have Lady Thor, which was also in the books. That's cool. But the trailers are weird. And I think that's why it's getting all the hate. There's weird trailers for this movie and there's some weird comedy intertwined in there. So we'll see.
We'll hear about it for sure at work. I'm surrounded. I'm surrounded by MCU people.
we all are. We're gonna hear about it, but what we're gonna hear is how good it is.
Yes, we are.
So
yes, we are.
Be prepared for that.
Yep. And I'm going to respond with, I heard it wasn't very good.